Episode 157. How can I prepare my own dog for grooming? So this week I'm talking to owners out there who are trying to help prepare their dogs for the grooming process. How do I walk an owner through the process? Find out this week. You're listening to the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Chrissy Neumeyer-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, a certified behavior consultant for canines, a grooming instructor at Whole Pet Grooming Academy, where I also teach my online program, Master Groomer Behavior Specialist, and I'm the owner of Happy Critters in Nashua, New Hampshire. And this, my friends and colleagues, is the podcast where grooming and training meet. You may have a new puppy that you're thinking, I'm going to prepare this puppy for grooming. Fabulous. This is a good place to start. Or you may have a dog that has already been groomed a couple times and maybe is experiencing some problems with it. So where do we start? The first thing I want you guys to know as owners is that our goal is for your dog to feel safe. A lot of our behavior problems are because dogs are frightened, uncomfortable, they're worried about what's going on. So if we can help them feel safe, a lot of behavior problems go away. So first step is just be thinking about, I want them to feel safe. Now, I usually define that as calm, comfortable, and cooperative. I call it the 3 C's. I mention it on the podcast a whole lot. But as a goal, we want them to be calm, we want them to be comfortable, and we want them to cooperate with us. So calm, comfortable, and cooperative is something for owners to know also. So let's start off with calm. We do need calm. We don't want your dog jumping around, being wiggly, even if it's silly wiggly. We're using sharp objects and we need them to be still for us. Now, I like the idea that a dog might be happy about grooming, but happy also needs to be worked on. Now, an example for owners that I think makes a lot of sense, I've had a lot of people say it really helped them understand. Imagine you have a piece of paper in front of you, just a regular sheet of paper and a pair of regular craft scissors, and I need you to just round off the corners. You're just going to round off the corners on that sheet of paper. So imagine it's an elementary school craft project. You're going to round off those corners. Just take about 1/4 of an inch off. How much wiggling would make that hard? So you have 1/4 of an inch. You're just going to round off that corner. And if that piece of paper is bouncing around, that would make your job much harder. All right, now a piece of paper, no big deal if you cut the corner because it's not going to bleed, it's not going to scream, it's not going to hurt, and it's not going to need a vet appointment. But if it's a dog, that could be an injury. So calmness is really important. That's going to be part of our goal. Now, the next one, comfortable. Now, there are a couple different ways to look at comfortable. One is physically comfortable. So if your dog has some health issues, we need to know about those and be adapting for that dog's health issues. Health issues could be things like a dog who has trouble standing, a dog with knee problems, a dog with joint problems in their front end. Things like that that we need to know about to help them feel comfortable. We can modify the way that we're holding and the way that we're doing stuff. Now, as an owner, that could be talking to your groomer and making sure you guys are on the same page with what kind of health problems your dog has. That could be talking to your veterinarian about what kind of health problems your dog has and what ways we can help make them feel comfortable. Now, the next part of comfortable is emotionally comfortable. Is your dog frightened of the tools that we use or people or being around other dogs? So be thinking about emotional comfort. We want them to feel comfortable with the stuff and things that we're going to be doing. So calm is important, comfortable is important, and that third one is cooperative. Now notice I didn't say obedient. It's not calm, comfortable, and obedient. It's calm, comfortable, and cooperative. I want to meet this dog part way. We are going to work together. The dog and the owner and the dog and the groomer or the dog and the vet are a team, and we're working together. So if this dog that I'm working with indicates that they are uncomfortable with something, I'm going to look into it. I'm not just going to tell them to knock it off. I'm going to see why they're uncomfortable because my goal is for them to be comfortable. And maybe there's a physical reason why they're uncomfortable. Maybe it's that they're uncomfortable with a tool and we need to work on that more. So cooperative means that the dog is willing to let us move him around, willing to let us do our stuff and things. And if they become a little bit afraid, we are willing to work on that. We are willing to back off and find out why. So calm, comfortable, and cooperative is a goal because a dog who happens to be calm, comfortable, and cooperative is a dog who is very safe to groom. Ta-da! And actually, for a lot of groomers, that's the dog who is a joy to groom. Now, if you teach your dog to be good for grooming, they are also going to be learning about being really good for other types of handling too. And that could be owners giving medications or even just toweling them off when they come in muddy. That could be at the veterinarian's office. That could be letting a veterinarian do range of motion, checking for joint problems. There are lots of things that a dog will learn about while we're teaching them to be comfortable with grooming. Grooming is a really tricky process. Grooming is more challenging than the average vet visit. And I say that as someone who used to be a vet tech. The average vet visit might have blood drawing, it might have vaccines, it might have, something that is painful going on. However, it does not last the same kind of length of time that a grooming process does. So they each have a different difficulty level. And they're very similar. I think from a dog's point of view, they're very similar. People touching them all over with weird stuff and things. So next, let's talk about what does your dog need to know to be good for grooming. So we talked about being calm, comfortable, and cooperative, but calm, comfortable, and cooperative for what? What do they need to feel safe with? So first one, we need to be able to touch your dog all over with a variety of stuff and things. And when I say all over, I mean all over. Every millimeter of your dog is going to be touched by the groomer. Every little teeny tiny place. We are everywhere. Sometimes we even have our fingers in their mouth to be able to pull some of the fur out from under their lip. So we are everywhere. We're in between the toes. We're doing it with water, with soap, with water, with conditioner, with water again, then with a towel, then with a dryer. We're brushes and combs. And it just constant touching everywhere. We're under their tail. We're at their rectum. We're in between their toes. We're in their ears. We're around their eyes. We touch them everywhere. No place is taboo. Everything gets cleaned and taken care of. So, being able to touch your dog all over with a variety of stuff and things. Second part, while standing and being repositioned. So it's not just about a dog lying across the sofa and learning about this. That's a good start, but we also need them to be able to stand for us while we touch them all over with a wide variety of stuff and things. So as owners, be thinking there's a way for you to also work on that, and we'll get into that more. Now, the next part is to do all of that in a distracting and sometimes challenging environment. Because this is not the same environment that they're used to, whether it be going to a grooming shop, which could have other dogs nearby, lots of people, it could have weird sounds, lots of things happening. It could be a grooming van, which is a weird place with, other smells that they're not used to, a little bit more low key than a grooming shop, but still a different environment. It's a weird place. It's distracting and challenging for some dogs. And even as a house call groomer, when I go into someone's home, I'm setting up my equipment. This could be distracting. This could be challenging. This could be really weird. So we've gone through your dog needs to be able to be touched all over with a variety of stuff and things. 2, while standing and being repositioned. 3, in a distracting and challenging environment. And number 4, for about an hour to 2 hours of hands-on time. Now, I think that's one of the pieces that is really kind of tricky because most of the time we aren't asking our dogs at home to do anything for that kind of endurance, right? We aren't asking them to have that kind of attention to anything for that long. So that can seem really foreign when they get into a grooming situation. So when we get those 4 things together, that's how we can help prepare them for the grooming process. because that's what grooming kind of requires. And then break it down into 4 things. We need to be able to touch your dog all over with a variety of stuff and things. We need to be able to do it while your dog is standing and allow us to reposition them. We have to be able to do it in a distracting and challenging environment. And we have to be able to do it for about an hour to 2 hours of hands-on time. So now that we've talked about what we need, in the next part we'll talk about ways that we can get there. If you're enjoying this podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes, and tell all of your friends. We've talked about what we need. Now let's talk about a couple of games on how we get there. Now, the first thing I want any dog owner to do is think about what your dog looks like when they are calm, comfortable, and cooperative. What does that look like for your dog? When is your dog comfortable? When is your dog totally relaxed about you touching them and moving around them? Like what does that look like? Because what we're looking for is the point where that changes. So if you have a new puppy and maybe they have no experience yet, we don't want to push them into something scary. We want to build their confidence gently and relax them into this next step of something that's a little bit more difficult. If your dog already has experience and has decided that something about grooming is scary, then we also want to gently guide them into thinking that something they used to think was scary isn't scary. But we want to do that gently and slowly, incrementally. So we're going to start off with finding what they are comfortable with. Now, I want to make it really clear here that even if you are thinking, well, it was a nail trimming that he wasn't good for, so we're going to work on nails, still do this part, because in my experience, dogs rarely have problems with the nail trimming. I know, take that in for a minute. What? If we can get them to be calm, comfortable, and cooperative for all of the things that we need to do to reach around them, hold on to them, line up the tool, and trim the nail, if we can get them to relax for all of that stuff, actually trimming the nail rarely has any sort of a response. It's all the other stuff about nail trimming that most dogs are responding to. I know, even if you are so sure it's just nail trimming. So I want you to think about, what is my dog comfortable with? Where do I notice the change into being a little bit worried or a little bit suspicious or a little bit nervous? Where do I notice that change? So for example, reach for your dog. Maybe your dog's laying on the couch beside you. Reach for them. Are they still comfortable with that? Great, then move on. If they're not, that's where you would work. Hey, buddy, I'm just reaching for you. Maybe you just are putting your hand beside them. Figure out what they're comfortable with. Because we're going to do the things that they're comfortable with more and more often and slowly build up to the things they're not comfortable with. So let's say now you reach for your dog and they're like, yeah, cool, that's fine. And you reach for their shoulder and they're like, yeah, that's good. Now you're going to reach for their elbow, looking for that moment when a dog is going to look a little bit worried, a little bit apprehensive, a little bit suspicious, maybe try to move away. Be thinking about that, because you should be able to touch your dog anywhere. That's just safe pet ownership. You should be able to touch your dog anywhere, but we want them to be comfortable with it. So if you reach for their elbow and suddenly they're like, ooh, I'm not real comfortable with that. Yeah, I'm sure your dog has problems having his nails trimmed because he's not real comfortable with even touching his elbow. So think about that, right? Okay, that would be something we need to work on before we start working on toes. Now, let's say your dog is fine with it. We're just going to be touching them all over, and your dog truly is totally fine with you touching them everywhere, every little teeny tiny millimeter of their body while they're hanging out laying on the couch. Great! Next step is we're going to play a little game where we touch them all over with stuff and things. Now, this does not mean that you need to have grooming equipment or you're going to start brushing. Even with dogs that need to be brushed, I usually have people start off with stuff and things that are not grooming things. And I want you to look at your coffee table Again, we're imagining that you're in your living room, maybe sitting on the couch with your dog or sitting on the floor with your dog and you're touching them all over. Now I want you to look at your coffee table and pull off random stuff to touch your dog all over with and get them used to this idea that, like, I don't know, they just pick up weird objects and touch me with them, and make your dog think that that's the most normal thing in the world. Now, what kind of things am I talking about? I'm looking at my coffee table right now and I'm seeing I have a coaster, I have a pen, I have reading glasses, I have a jar candle, I have a box of tissues. I have all this variety of weird stuff and things that I can be touching a dog with. Now, many owners will say, well, I don't want my dog to think those are dog toys. And yes, that is a very, very good observation. So good for you. I'm sure you thought that. We don't want any of our grooming tools to be dog toys either. So that's actually part of the lesson. You may sniff it, you may look at it, you may observe what I'm doing, but it is not for you as a puppy to play with. I'm going to touch you all over with this random DVD case or this, whatever thing I pick up from the coffee table. Maybe it's a spoon, who knows? But it's not for a dog to play with. I'm going to touch you all over with weird stuff and things until that becomes so normal that your dog doesn't think twice about it. Like, yeah, she touches me with stuff. Whatever. Doesn't your mom touch you with stuff? Now, the next step, again, keeping in mind, we're always looking for calm, comfortable, and cooperative. We want your dog to feel safe during this whole process. To think, yeah, that's safe. No biggie. The next step would be to actually try to get your dog to stand while you're touching them all over with stuff and things. Now, that could be standing on the sofa beside you. That could be standing on the floor. That could be standing on a chair. Who knows? But be thinking that standing is going to be an important part of dog grooming. And so if they're standing now while we're touching them all over with stuff and things, to touch them all over is going to require moving tails and lifting feet and lifting ears and really moving around them in a way that kind of mimics what we do when we're grooming. Do you see how this would help build their experience toward feeling like that's pretty normal? Even though you're not using the same stuff and things that groomers use, if you just keep pulling out a variety of things, and it could be a dog toy. I just grab all sorts of things. It could be, a metronome. I don't care. I just touch them all over with stuff and things until they start feeling like that's just normal. No big deal. And then standing while you're doing that. And that alone is going to help prepare them for the grooming process. Now, I'm going to address here that you may want to use treats to help reward your dog for doing this. If you're already doing dog training and maybe you're doing clicker training or something like that, if you feel comfortable with that, go ahead and use some treats. Keeping in mind that we do not want a dog who is super excited about grooming. So we need to keep the excitement level low, which is part of why I usually don't use a whole lot of treats. Also, during the grooming process, while your groomer is grooming your dog, treats can become really cumbersome and unwieldy, and some grooming shops don't want treats in the room because it affects all of the dogs in that room. Just some things to think about. So, if we are using treats to help the dog feel comfortable with this process, we also need to be thinking about fading them out eventually. Now, another thing to note that I really want to make sure you guys are thinking about, we do not want to be doing any sort of punishment during this process. Now, I will tell you that I am definitely in the positive reinforcement mindset. I am following least intrusive, minimally aversive, and the humane hierarchy. But I'm not being judgy about punishment. But hear me out. The reason why we don't want to punish a dog for the behaviors they might show during grooming is because the behaviors that they show about resisting grooming or feeling uncomfortable with grooming are because they find it uncomfortable, unpleasant, or scary. That's actually the problem we're dealing with in the grooming process. The problem is that your dog finds it uncomfortable, unpleasant, or scary. So responding to their behavior with things that are more unpleasant, uncomfortable, or scary backfires. And I say that with many, many years of experience that can really, really backfire. We don't want more unpleasant, uncomfortable, and scary to try to fix unpleasant, uncomfortable, and scary. So this is different than other aspects of your dog's life. This is already something that they're finding really uncomfortable, unpleasant, or scary. And instead, we want to focus on helping them feel like it's safe. Help them feel like it's safe. Help them feel like they can be comfortable with it and really build this good feeling of, oh, okay, that's not what I thought it was. I can do this. This is safe for me to do. This is going to be okay, because that will give a lasting behavior change. The behaviors that we see are fear-based. They're discomfort. It's because they think it's unpleasant. So if we can help them feel like this is safe, a lot of those behaviors go away. And they don't resurface later when a dog is older or has health problems or is scared again. They don't usually resurface if we can really teach that core part that, hey, buddy, this is just stuff you need to do, and this is safe. So our purpose is to help the dog feel safe. Now, certainly there's a lot more stuff to work on, but I think that this game is a nice entry-level game for any owner to try, where you're just watching for where your dog is calm, comfortable, and cooperative, what your dog thinks is safe, and building on it with just random stuff. Because in the end, every groomer has slightly different tools. Your dog is going to think that all of our tools are random stuff. Don't worry about things that vibrate or make noise until your dog is totally fine with every little angle of random stuff. And that's going to be your first step. Doing this for a week or two can make a tremendous difference in how your dog deals with grooming, not just in the near future, but for their entire life. If you'd like more information, you can find me at Chrissy@happycritters.net, happycrittersdogtraining.com, or you can join the Facebook group, Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast, or the Facebook page, Creating Great Grooming Dogs. I really look forward to hearing from you.